think the deep state is essentially just human nature, just like the rest of us. The people who work for the NSA and the CIA and in the Senate, they're people. They're people, but they're people who are given a whole lot of resources and a whole lot of power. I think it's well-connected idiots are in charge of this country. That's what I think. Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing, and so is Trump, loyalty syndrome. Part of my language was like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. This is an interesting kind of dichotomy here. I think we have to use more conservative ideals to move us forward and be progressive, it makes sense though. It makes sense. I don't know if Trump reads. I want a president who reads things. If you're going to compare anyone to Hitler, you got to do it in a way that is not easily defeatable. Everyone you don't like can't be Hitler, essentially. I think we can get people who are better in these positions. We just have to actually care. Are you frustrated with the American school system and the way that it seems to just be built on an obedience model, where it exchanges curiosity for compliance? Well, I was too. And through a grant from the Heterodox Academy, Zachary Cresswell and I created a curriculum based on understanding critical thinking. It's absolutely free and it's available at williamroosh.com/critical thinking. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Cylinder Radio. I'm your host, Will Roosh, high school teacher in Los Angeles. I've done over 150 podcasts now, started in January of 2019, and I've done maybe 3 solo podcasts, but I'm going to start doing more of those to talk about topics that I think are really pertinent. And sometimes when I have a guest, I let my guest share their thoughts a lot, and then I kind of give some back and forth, but it's really about my guest. And my audience seems to be very interested in what I have to say about things as well. So I'm going to bring on guests, but I'm also going to do some that are solo this one. So I'm going to take on different topics on different episodes. The one I want to talk about now is the deep state, concept of the deep state. I think that it's a topic that people are interested in, this idea of the deep state. So I'm going to address a couple of different things, kind of go on a rant. I wrote down some notes and I'm going to talk about those, just putting it out there to maybe spark some thought. And what I'm hoping I can do is have it make sense. Look, I love tinfoil hat stuff. I talk about it in my classroom all the time and things like that. But I like to use Occam's razor and go to what's probably going on for real and use, pattern recognition and stuff from being a history teacher. So, I listened to that song, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Everybody wants to rule the world. I don't want to rule the world. That seems like a lot of responsibility that I don't want to have. But some people do. And the reason that they do, I think, is striving for power. The way I define power in my classroom is kind of 2 ways. One is the ability to get others to do what you want them to do more than they want to do themselves. So, a boss has power to tell you what to do, or in war or in a prison or something like that, even like Stanford Prison Experiment, the Zimbardo experiment, you have to do what I tell you to do. There's that kind of power. But there's also a definition I use, which is the ability to allocate resources. So if you have power, then you can say what goes where. And the reason that people want to have power is because they believe that they're good at it, that they think that they can do that well. I don't think it's always just selfish. I get really frustrated with this idea that people in power or people that think differently than me are just the bad people. If they're wrong, I'm right. And that's just our default all the time in our tribal nature, to say that people of the other tribes are the wrong ones. But I think they really believe that they're doing good. I think Mitch McConnell really believes that. I think Nancy Pelosi really believes that. And I think those are just 2 examples of people who are past their prime, let's say, in age, and they are established leaders of this country that you might call like the deep state. Now, you could say that those politicians are the deep state, or you could just say that they are in power because of the deep state, which would be the unelected bureaucrats, wealthy CEOs, corporate leaders, the behind the scenes people. George W. Bush was president, but Dick Cheney was kind of in charge, that kind of stuff. So maybe Dick Cheney would be more of the deep state. George W. Bush was kind of the front man. I think it's important to acknowledge Trump in this. This is recorded in late September 2023, and it's undeniable that the political world in America revolves around Trump. And it has for a very long time. Trump is American politics, like it or not. CNN who was it? Les Moonves said Trump is bad for the country, but he's good for NBC or whatever he said, something like that. Joe Biden was elected not because people liked Joe Biden, but because they did not like Trump. Trump had, whatever, 75, 80 million votes because people really like Trump. So it's all about Trump. And now in 2024, it looks like it's all about Trump. And the Republicans and their primaries are all, talking about Trump. And are they going to align themselves more with Trump, like Vivek Ramaswamy or something? Or are they going to distance themselves from him, DeSantis or Chris Christie or something like that? But it's all about Trump. And then on the left, whenever something needs to get vilified, it is MAGA Republicans. The MAGA Republicans support this. The MAGA Republicans, MAGA, 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 MAGA. And that just keeps Trump in the news. And we're in a time in 2023 where no publicity, or what is it? We're in a time in 2023 where all publicity is good publicity. It's kind of like the Kardashians, like this idea that just as long as you're talking about them, as long as they're on camera, it's all good. Whether it's bad, it's not bad. It's just they become known. And a big part of politics is just being known. Do people recognize you? The reason why people say The Rock should run for president, who knows what his stances are on anything? It's just he's known. So it's like he has a chance to win. And a lot of funding for politicians goes to is ads, is to bring you into who is this person? Well, we already know. We knew who Trump was going back since like the 1980s. We know who Trump was, Home Alone 2 and Sex and the City and all these different things, his reality show. So we know who Trump was. So he invested a lot less money than Hillary Clinton, but he didn't need to because we already know who he is. But Trump did cause TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Absolutely. And Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. And so is Trump loyalty syndrome, where Trump can do no wrong. I'll get to my critiques of Donald Trump, but the reason why Donald Trump triggers so many people, I think, is because he shouldn't be successful, essentially. And the people get triggered by him the most are like quantifiably unsuccessful intellectuals. People who on paper haven't achieved a whole lot, but are very smart. They're very well educated and stuff like that. Because they say, how can he be so successful? Because he's, a billionaire president of the United States, like he's successful by like the metrics that we use for success a lot of times. And I'm not successful. I'm so much smarter than him. I know so many more things, and that it causes so much conflict that something has to be wrong, and it just kind of breaks a lot of people. Sam Harris, a really smart guy, but I think if you can look at it objectively, I think it's clearly, I think he's been broken by Donald Trump. Trump played the politics game. Filmmaker Rob Montz, who's a friend of mine, made a great video that I showed in my class sometimes, that it's inevitable that we get Donald Trump to be president because over time, the president went from just kind of being like a figurehead and someone who's good at delegating and things like that to being more powerful. Okay? Since World War II, getting us out of the Great Depression, FDR, getting us out of the Great Depression, World War II, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The president became more and more powerful. And then the president also became more and more of a celebrity, starting with like JFK and Camelot and all that stuff. And then Bill Clinton and his sex life and all that kind of stuff became a soap opera. So the president is gaining more power and gaining more attention and popularity. So what you're going to get is someone who really loves power and popularity, power and fame. Donald Trump loves power and fame. So of course he's going to be someone who's going to try and grab that position. I think Donald Trump came in with Drain the Swamp, and then he didn't really know where to go. So he surrounded himself with people that were very traditional. A lot of the people in his administration, a lot of his policies and stuff were kind of run-of-the-mill Republican. That's why someone like Ben Shapiro didn't vote for Donald Trump the first time, but then did, the second time around. It's like Ben Shapiro's like, I guess it's he's just another Republican. It's like, and that was settling for a lot of comfortable place for a lot of Republicans. But the media did not treat Trump fairly. I didn't vote for Donald Trump either time. I was very concerned about when he won in 2016 because I was like, what's going to happen? This guy seems really nuts. Seems like a loose cannon. I didn't vote for him. His rhetoric was sloppy, but he wasn't as bad as I thought he would be, which is a wonderful thing. But the media did not treat him fairly. The big thing that happened early in his time in office was at a rally to try and remove statues and things like that. A white supremacist ran his car into a crowd and killed someone. And Donald Trump said, there were good people on both sides talking about let's tear down these statues, which is absolutely true. There are people who are good people who disagree with other good people about whether or not Confederate statues should be removed. And then he said, I'm not talking about the Ku Klux Klan, the neo-Nazis, and the racists. I'm not talking about them. They should be condemned completely. And yet saying good people on both sides has become like a meme. It's become like this soundbite that he said. So I do this for my class where I'll play like a clip out of context of Donald Trump and then play the full context. You know, he says like, these people coming across the border, they're not people, they're animals. It's like, he's calling Mexicans animals. And then you zoom out a little bit and he's talking about people from like MS-13 and these gangs, like these gang people who come in here, they're mass murderers and blah, blah, blah. You know, they're not even people, they're animals. He's talking about mass murders. But the problem with not being articulate is your sloppy rhetoric can be taken out of context and thrown out there in all kinds of ways. And if you're not being super clear in the way that you speak, then people are going to misinterpret it, especially when they have prejudice towards you, like people obviously have with Donald Trump. There's a lot of prejudice against him. You know, they prejudge him. People who don't know him at all are going to be certain that they know him very, very well. There are things to critique Donald Trump on. Very valid things to say about Donald Trump that are bad in his behavior and the things that he's done in his past and things that he did as president. When they said, do you take any responsibility for, you know, COVID and stuff? He's like, I take zero responsibility. I'm like a Jocko Willink guy. Like, zero responsibility. You're the president. You take full responsibility, extreme ownership. And he doesn't take that. He doesn't admit blame. He doesn't say that he's, you know, done wrong. All that stuff, like there's a lot to critique Donald Trump on. But what the media did was they made stuff up. It was like Boy Who Cried Wolf. And it's really dangerous because you get stuff wrong. You take a shot at the king, don't miss. And the stuff with the Russian collusion and stuff like that. Now, did Trump have some level of like corruption with foreign people from Russia or whatever? Like probably some level. And Mueller was just like, there wasn't sufficient here. I was kind of bound by the situation that I can't go further and blah, 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 blah. Not saying Trump is completely innocent, but I believe, after studying politics and teaching politics, that Trump's corruption is like there, but it's on par with most politicians at the highest level. I think Joe Biden is very, very corrupt. I think Obama, as sweet as Obama is, and like his image, I think is corrupt. I think George Bush is corrupt. I think that's kind of the way that you are at that level is you have to be, by definition, kind of corrupt. You're going to not deal out the cards evenly. Look, you're in a position of power. You're going to stack the deck in your favor. I know we all will, which is what I'm going to get back to talking about the deep state. But Trump was not treated fairly by the media. Still isn't. Trump didn't get us into any extreme wars. I mean, he did drone attacks and stuff like that for sure, which I'm not a fan of, but he was trying to keep the country afloat economically and things like that. Look, maybe he was just doing it to feed his narcissism, but he still is. Things weren't that bad until COVID, and you're going to blame Trump for COVID. Well, kind of. And here's what I mean. Getting to the critiques of Trump is, first of all, Trump didn't read his daily briefings. That's a problem. I don't know if Trump reads. I don't know if Trump reads. I want a president who reads things. So we get his daily briefings like, yeah, give me the gist. What did they say on Fox and Friends or whatever? But I think the biggest danger of Donald Trump is he is very susceptible to flattery. I don't think Trump is an ideologue. You know, ideologues are very, very dangerous. They have an ideology that is going to drive them. I don't think Trump has that. I think Trump is a populist and he'll just go to whatever people want. I don't know if Trump has like a favorite song. You know what I mean? Like he's a very interesting guy. I heard Penn Jillette say something like, I asked him about music and he doesn't like music. I don't know if that's true, but like I can kind of see that. Very, very interesting, like super narcissistic guy. But he's so susceptible to flattery. Like I don't think Trump is like a racist. Prejudice maybe might like take these heuristics and say like, oh, this person's black, they must be this, or Hispanic, they must be this, or a woman, they must be this. Sure. If someone is like a trans, black, disabled Muslim and they wear a MAGA hat and say, I love you, Donald Trump, they're in. Trump would be like, cool, come on, you're great. High five. Yes, this person's awesome. Like that, I really believe that. I think Trump will take a black, trans, Muslim person in a MAGA hat who loves him over a straight white man who doesn't love Trump all day. I really think that. So it's not as simple as to say, you know, Trump's just like a racist. But the problem with being so susceptible to flattery is it's an easy way to circumvent you and you're in charge. So apparently, whether it's NIH, the Eco Health Alliance, or Anthony Fauci or whatever, when they wanted to do some of this gain of function research stuff, they went to Obama and they were like, hey, here's what we're thinking about doing. We're going to do this. And Obama's like, no, like this is really dangerous stuff. No, you're not doing this kind of research. They did it under Trump because I think Trump just doesn't know what he's talking about with that kind of stuff. I think Trump is an excellent marketer, but I don't think he's like a deep thinker. I think he's great at people. He can flatter you if you're around Trump. He probably makes you feel pretty good, like a politician style. I think he's great at some sort of negotiations and stuff. He knows like when to put the pressure on and not. And he's great at marketing, putting your name on everything. He's also, just like really bold of just saying like, I'm the man. I'm awesome. Buy from me. Buy from me. That confidence goes a long way in sales, guys. Just be confident and it goes a long way. It's huge. Confidence is really huge. And Trump has confidence. But because they were able to do that kind of research, it looks like most likely that, COVID then was in this lab and escaped and caused the pandemic and everything. But the CIA and intelligence community and stuff like that knew that all you got to do is just sweet talk Trump and tell him how great he is. And you can kind of just get away with anything. He'll trust you and he'll like you. And that's dangerous. If you have a leader in that kind of like high up position that is so susceptible to flattery, it's a very easy safe to crack to get around them, get their trust. You just have to say how great they are. And as soon as you turn on Trump and say he's not great, then he'll turn on you. Okay, but as long as you say that he's great, he's cool with it. That's like my biggest critique of Trump that I think is dangerous. And I watched this documentary on Adolf Hitler because I'm really fascinated. When I asked my class, like, who's definitely like terrible in history, it's all Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler is easy. But one of the things Adolf Hitler was running on when he was gaining power was make Germany great again. That concept of make Germany great again. We have a nostalgia for the past, and progressive ideas are moving really fast and people are just like stumbling to keep up or can't keep up, or language is changing so fast. We don't have common definitions about anything, about what violence is, about what a woman is, about what safety is. Like, we don't have common definitions. So it's just going too fast. People can't keep up. So let's go back to the good old days when we knew what violence was, we knew what a woman was. And this is like reasonable people. And so the idea of like make America great again, it's kind of like great in like the nostalgic sense. And Germany was in a really tough spot. The Versailles Treaty after World War I, the Weimar Republic and stuff like that. It was just real chaos in the streets, and people were like, oh, the good old days. Let's go back to the good old days. And you could say like, see, so because of that, Trump is like Hitler. Yeah, but Make America Great Again was also a concept of Ronald Reagan. It could also be the kind of tagline for anything that's saying like it was better before than it is today. So if you're going to compare anyone to Hitler, it's very easy to do, but do that in a way that's like, if you're going to compare anyone to Hitler, you got to do it in a way that is not easily defeatable. Everyone you don't like can't be Hitler, essentially. So on to the deep state. The deep state is essentially who controls things. And we know that the politicians are in power because of funding, okay? Now, funding can go really different ways. Some people say like let's get the money out of politics. Here's the thing. You can limit how much money I can donate to a candidate. That actually happens. You can do that. But The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, has something like 300 million Instagram followers, right? So if you have a Jeep, like I have a Jeep, and you're, Chrysler, and you say like, hey, Dwayne Johnson, can you just sit in this Jeep and say, I love the new Jeep Wrangler. Do you smell what The Rock is cooking in my new Jeep Wrangler, the 2024 one-touch, hybrid Jeep Wrangler? It's great. I love it. You'd love it too. How much would that cost for Dwayne Johnson to do that for Jeep? I mean, honestly, he's a wealthy guy. It might be $20 million. Would he do it for $20 million? Probably $20 million, $10 million. Let's just lowball it and say $10 million. Dwayne The Rock Johnson will have a post about buying a Jeep. Okay. Well, Dwayne Johnson can't donate $10 million to Joe Biden, but he can, and he did go on his Instagram and say, I'm voting for Biden-Harris. So because of that, you can get the money out in straight donations, but you can't. Donations just go to more influence. You can just go right to the influencer. You can go to all these big influencers and have them just say the thing. So are you going to limit people? Can you say, well, Dwayne Johnson, you can't actually endorse Biden? Well, that is clearly a violation of freedom of speech. Yeah, of course, he can say he's going to vote for whoever he wants. So it's really tricky. If you're Rupert Murdoch, you can only donate so much to the Republican Party, but you can create Fox News. You can create a television channel and around the clock dump on Democrats and promote Republicans. You're not giving them money. Is that money out of politics? It's very tricky to take money out of politics because it's really not, not trying to limit money, you're trying to limit influence. And you can't really stop influence because some people will have more influence than others, and they are going to have the same constitutional rights as everyone else, and then therefore they can endorse whoever they want. But that is essentially giving them power. And look, if I am running even just for like mayor and someone with a huge following, Kylie Jenner and Dwayne Johnson and Joe Rogan all come out and say, Will Roosh for mayor of LA or whatever it is. Like, you think those people are not like going to pay parking tickets? Like Kylie Jenner gets a parking ticket. She's going to call me up and be like, hey, Will, remember I helped get you into the mayorship? You get rid of this parking ticket? Like, yeah, like I can't. Like, that's the way it works. And if I say like, no, I'm not going to do that, that wouldn't be right. It's like, I got you this job. We get our friends hookups all the time. When I was in high school, I worked at a video store. You young people don't know what a video store is, but I worked at a video store. And then I had a friend who worked at Subway, and I had another friend that worked at a car wash. And what would happen is my friend who worked at the car wash would come in, and I'd give him like a free video, take the video home. And then when I go to the car wash, he'd mark me down for like a basic wash, and I'd get like the works wash. And then my friend at Subway would come in, and I'd give him 2 movies for the price of 1, or I'd let him keep a movie for an extra day or something like that. And then when I go to Subway, I'd order just like a 6-inch, and he'd give me a foot long, like that. That kind of hookup culture, not like hookup like like making out, but like hookup like in just like favors, that works on the teenage level. It works for all of you. Your friends will hook up their friends. That's just the way that it works. It works in human nature. And as you scale things up, that will continue. I think we're just talking about a scale issue. A lot of this deep state stuff is just a scale issue. If your best friend growing up had a small Italian restaurant, okay, and you're catering something for a whole bunch of people, you're going to go to your friend's restaurant. Why would you not? What are you going to go to? You're hosting a big party and they say, we want pizza. You're going to go call Domino's. You're going to go to your friend's Italian restaurant. You're going to go to your friend's restaurant. Pizza's pizza, right? So if you're the mayor, you're the governor, you're a senator, you're the president, and you need to give contracts to somebody, you're going to go to the people that you know. You're going to go to your friends. So it's just a scale issue. You look at like all these like pedophiles, these like high profile pedophiles, like Epstein. I say, look at all these people in positions of power that are pedophiles. It's crazy. All these pedophiles in power. When you were growing up, if you're my age, I'm 40, like you'd walk around the neighborhood and stuff, you'd be like, oh, that's old man Jenkins' house. It's always like one house. It's like a family community, and there's like one like solo old man that lived in your neighborhood of like just like families. It's like, what's he doing here? He was out washing his Corvette in short shorts sometimes or something like that, and offer you candy, and you're like, no, I'm not eating that candy. Like, we knew about pedophiles. And you just go, stay away from that dude's house. In a neighborhood of 100 houses, how many houses had someone who was like some sort of weird creep? I don't know, 2 or 3 houses, 2%. When you scale that up to all of the super powerful 8, 9, 10, 11 figure people out in the world, 2 or 3% of them. And the thing is like the creepy guy in your neighborhood doesn't have an entire like resource apparatus to cover up his actions. So like, yeah, there's pedophiles. And when they get a lot of power, they have a lot of people around to protect that stuff. Like even like Harvey Weinstein, he was a sexual predator. Doesn't seem like with young underage people, but just like in general, like there's a lot of sexual predators. Like I went to a big school, I went to Penn State. Like there's a lot of frat guys and stuff that were sexual predators, like getting girls really drunk and passing out or coercing them and all that kind of stuff. It's not that uncommon. It's sad. It's terrible. It's not that uncommon, but those people gain a lot of power. It was written into Harvey Weinstein's contract. Like this is what happens when the first person comes up and the second person comes up, and they knew it and they just had the power to control it. Because what are you going to do? Say, no, that's wrong, then you're fired. And people are very hesitant to stand up to power. They don't stand up. They just kind of go with it out of fear. So I think there's a lot of the deep state that is just normal human behavior. But once you get a whole lot of resources at your disposal, you just use those to kind of help support your vices, your sinful nature, your ugly things. And I think that happens just a lot. It's like if you were really, really famous, you're Taylor Swift, you're Leonardo DiCaprio, like would you wait in line at Starbucks? Or would you just walk in, butt in line, just go right to the front, be like, I'm Leo DiCaprio, I'm Taylor Swift, and someone would be like, oh my gosh, Taylor Swift just butted in line. That's amazing. Like, if you don't have to wait in line, will you wait in line? And these people in positions of power, it's like, I can get away with it. I probably will. And then your perception of reality just changes. I don't know if power corrupts. Maybe power just reveals. Takes away all of the roadblocks and all of the guardrails. And you can just kind of do whatever you want. If you have tremendous resources, tremendous wealth, tremendous power, you can kind of just do what you want. You kind of go insane. One of the things that keeps us normal, to the degree that we're normal, is the guardrails, is that we have to function in a society, that we have to wait in line at Starbucks. That keeps us normal. If you don't have to do that ever, you get kind of by definition insane. You're not really a member of society anymore. You're in this weird out there world. It must be very strange to be someone like that to be even like a Taylor Swift or, you know, whatever, Eminem or something like that. It must be very strange. And if you're in government, it's a lot of power, you know, and you probably just, you know, you lose track of what morals really are, you know, what's right or wrong. Like if you can get away with it, is it wrong still? We download movies. I have a lot of friends that stream UFC fights and stuff for free. It's like they get away with it. So, and these are like good people that know that it's wrong. What are they going to do? They're not going to catch me. I'm stealing from rich people. Not just stealing from Dana White. You're stealing from the people who work production. You're stealing from the fighters. And you know what? I've streamed UFC fights illegally too, but I don't do anymore. I try not to. Like, it's not good, you know? And just because you can get away with something obviously doesn't make it moral. But back to the deep state, what's odd is it seems to be more the political right that is calling out the deep state. Like that's pretty new, because under like George W. Bush and things like that, you wouldn't critique the FBI. But now who's critiquing the FBI is the right. It's really switched. It was always the left critiquing the deep state, so to speak. But now it's like RFK Jr. is a very interesting candidate talking about the deep state a lot, and he's like a pariah of the left. It doesn't make sense. Look, so now I'm finding myself aligning with the political right more. And I don't think I've changed, but what happened was I grew up listening to Rage Against the Machine a lot. It's one of my favorite bands ever. Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello and Zach De La Rocha, like it's a very like anti-establishment band, anti-corporate power, anti-government and politics and stuff like that. And I listened to them and I was like, yeah, like fight the power, you know, Public Enemy, fight the power. Like I love that stuff. And it seems like the political right is fighting the power more. And it seems like the political left is just embracing the power structure because the power structure is smart, you know, like they're smart. So they know how to play it. So after Occupy Wall Street, which was like a problem for the powerful elite, they go, oh, well, let's take the attention off of us and let's just be the good guys. How do you be the good guys? Well, just say what good guys say, which is like, I love minorities and I love the downtrodden and we're going to help people and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you can see through that, hopefully. Do you think like Goldman Sachs like cares about like racism? I mean, come on, all this stuff. It's like crazy. Like Nike doesn't care about racism. Individuals at Nike do, people do, but corporations don't. Corporations have one job, and I have my class kind of repeat this. It's raise shareholder value. It's not even profit. Raise shareholder value. So they will do whatever they can do to raise shareholder value. And if they gotta go woke, they'll go woke. If they gotta go MAGA, they'll go MAGA. They don't care. It's like, what will raise shareholder value? That's what they'll do. There's no morality. There's no moral compass of a corporation. There's a moral compass of people within a corporation. But there's a lot of pressure at the people at the top of corporations to raise shareholder value. And if you're not raising shareholder value, you're out. It's like an NFL coach. You don't get those W's, you're out. So these corporations and stuff are going to push an agenda that is on its front more benevolent, more kind. And that seems to be more of the left. The right, you know, we know the PR of the conservatives is not as kind looking. So I find myself kind of aligning with the political right on things. And it's strange because it is kind of more Rage Against the Machine. That song, Killing in the Name of, which is so good. There's a whole part where it's like, part of my language was like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And like, that's in a lot of ways, in 2023, that's the Republicans. Wear a mask. No. Get the vaccine. No. Say the thing about BLM. No. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. Because who's telling who what to do? Who is in power? It's not just political power, but who's in power of corporations? Who's in power of the institutions? Who's in power of the universities and the schools? It's very, very left-leaning because left-leaning looks better. They look nicer. They're saying the things that you're supposed to say. You're saying the nice things. You know, like the civil rights movement was of the left because it's trying to fight the institutional power. But the institutional power then was just more conservative. The institutional power now is still conserving, trying to keep the power at the top. But the way you stay at the top of the power structure is by saying all the things that will make you look good. It's a PR move. I don't think the divisions in our country are really Democrat versus Republican, left and right. I think there is that in all of us. Left brain, right brain stuff, for sure. But I think that Nancy and Mitch are sipping scotch together. And what it really is, the division that I seem to align with more is the establishment versus the not. And look, we don't want to get rid of institutions, but we need a drastic change in who's in charge. You ever see like an old person on their phone? They hold their phone like this. Like someone who is like this and has to wear reading glasses to look at their phone should probably not be writing legislation for big tech. Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's one of my senators out here in California, is under power of attorney by her daughter, so because she can't make her own decisions. She's in the Senate voting on things like AI. You think she knows anything about AI? This is terrifying for like my students who are 18 years old. And these people are in charge and they don't want to give up their power because they believe that they're good. They believe that they're right. And who would want to give up power? People don't want to give up power. That's why George Washington is so awesome. He voluntarily gave up power, hoping that he'd set an example. I used to be more progressive in that I trusted that there were good people in government to allocate resources. And I don't see that as much. I've become more anti-establishment. Still, what I would say progressive, I think we need to progress. I don't think we should stay where we're at. I think we need to improve. I just think we also need to this is an interesting kind of dichotomy here. I think we have to use more conservative ideals to move us forward and be progressive, it makes sense though. It makes sense. You need the left and the right to push good ideas forward. That's why I get so upset when it's left versus right. It's not. And the left and the right should recognize, if they had their eyes open, they weren't ignorant, they would recognize that the people who are in charge aiming for self-interest. I mean, the stuff that happened during COVID is pretty wild, and it was a massive wealth transfer. Mom and pop stores had to shut down, but everyone that ran online platforms, which is big tech, which are the richest, most powerful people in the world, run online platforms, not mom and pop stores. They pushed to shut down mom and pop stores so they can keep everything online, and everyone went online. Why would you not do that? If you had an online business, you, a moral person, had an online business and you had employees that you love. You go to their house, you know their kids, you got to keep them employed. You know, my family has a business. My wife has 42 employees and we work really hard to make sure that they get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And we'll work really hard for them. If we have to stack the deck a little bit in the favor of these people that I know and love compared to strangers that I don't know and love, we'll do that. I mean, that's the Shark Tank of business. And when you're Jeff Bezos, you can do that. Jeff Bezos, you buy a double property in Washington, D.C. You have big parties with a bunch of congressmen and bureaucrats and leaders, and you schmooze them. And then you say like, hey, can we, move this and let's extend this and let's do this. It'll be good for my business and my employees that I think Jeff Bezos, let's just give Jeff Bezos the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he really loves his employees. Let's do this so it'll help my employees at the expense of these people that I don't know. And I don't care because Jeff Bezos is a shark. He's a businessman. If you have kids, you will stack the deck in favor of your kids. You will give your kids opportunities that they didn't quite earn because you love them. And you believe that if you give them those opportunities, that they will step up to the challenge. Well, everyone does that. And some people can do that in ways that other people can't. They can get them internships, get them into better colleges, get them opportunities. Then what you get is people who really aren't the best and brightest, just the most well-connected in positions of power. I think our government is a lot more like Veep than it is House of Cards. I don't think it's run by super powerful people twisting their mustache trying to manipulate people in the WEF. There's probably some of that, but I think the WEF is probably full of people that really mean well and they really believe it. And they're surrounded by yes men who, so they don't get a lot of pushback. But I think it's more just idiots. I think it's well-connected idiots are in charge of this country. That's what I think. I think it's well-connected people are in charge of this country and they're idiots. Or they're not, even if they're not idiots, they're probably smarter than me, but they're not the best and brightest. They're not the best for the job. And we want the best for the job. And I think they see Donald Trump as a threat to them because Donald Trump is this bull in a china shop. And the people who've tried to call out this kind of situation would be like Bernie Sanders to some degree, Tulsi Gabbard, who I adore. I love Tulsi Gabbard. She would be, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but I think she would be the best option for president. But anyway, they tried to say all right, this is nuts. The people who are in charge here should not be in charge. They're not the best and brightest. They didn't beat the machine. The machine beat them. At some point, I think Tulsi had a lawsuit against Facebook, Google, and Hillary Clinton. Google blocked her website and stuff like that when she took down Kamala Harris. You can't, the machine took her out. The DNC machine took out Bernie and he just quickly bent the knee. Tulsi didn't bend the knee. So she just was kind of just dismissed and out. So either bend the knee or you just get made obsolete. That's what happened to Tulsi. But Trump broke the machine. He actually won. He won, which is crazy. So the machine's going to come after him because he is a threat to them. And whether he's a threat because, he's a threat to the deep state and the intelligence community just because he's kind of all over the place and not coherent and stuff, or it's because he's actively going after him. Either way, he's a threat to the people who have a stronghold on the power of this country. So they're going to come after him. And he's not easy to bully. Not easy to bully the bully, you know? And he's also built up this persona of someone who is constantly, you know, pursued and persecuted. He has a persecution complex. You know, Trump was going back to Trump before I close this out, is he was actually falling in like popularity. He was at like Trump rallies bragging about the vaccine and getting booed at his own rallies. And he was kind of like falling off and people didn't care. And then they raided Mar-a-Lago. Look, they're coming after me again. They're coming after me again. And popularity starts going up. Indict again, popularity goes up. Indict again, popularity goes up. Indict again, popularity goes up. Because people go, oh, this is like in the Matrix. It's those squid things, whatever they're called. Sentinels, those sentinels in the Matrix. They're coming after me. The Matrix is coming after me. They're coming after Trump. And Trump even says they're not coming after me. They're coming after us. So all the people like me who are like, yeah, this deep state, these people who are not the best and brightest, who are in charge, who are in positions of power and trying to hold on to that power. And I don't think they should be holding on to power. I think we can get better people in these positions. They're coming after him. And it gets a lot of people who are like me to go, all right, well, I'm going to go with the guy who's at least challenging the machine. And if it's Trump and Biden again, it's going to be the machine versus the anti-machine, the establishment versus the anti-establishment. And it's weird to call Trump the anti-establishment, but I do think that he is. I think he is. I think there are way better options for anti-establishment. I think RFK Jr. is a better option than Donald Trump. I think Tulsi Gabbard, as I said, is a way better option. I think Bernie Sanders is a better option. I disagree with Bernie Sanders on economics and things like that, but I think he's better. But Donald Trump's the one you got. So it's going to be, you know, the establishment versus the anti-establishment. But wrapping this up, I think that it was kind of all over the place. I kind of do that sometimes in my class. I just go on these rants. But I think the deep state is essentially just human nature, just like the rest of us. The people who work for the NSA and the CIA and in the Senate, they're people. They're people, but they're people who are given a whole lot of resources and a whole lot of power to do what they think is right. People have weird moral compasses. You might have an uncle or a neighbor who has a weird moral compass. They just like throw litter around or whatever it is. They do things that are really bad, but they think it's good and they justify it and stuff. That's who's in these positions. And I'm naive and I'm idealistic, but I think we can get people who are better in these positions. We just have to actually care. We can't fall into the book, Neil Postman book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. We can't fall into this thing of people can name, you go up to people at a random shopping center and you say, tell me your 3 favorite Kardashians and why. They can do that. But if you say, name your 3 favorite congressmen and why, they can't. So what's happening is we're just being lulled to sleep, this comfortable kind of sleep. And then the people, that's good for the people in power. It's like when you take your car to the mechanic, you know nothing about cars. You just say, my car is making a funny sound. The mechanic reads you and goes, oh, you know nothing about cars? Cool. Well, your car needs a new Sniggenfluger for under your engine, and I got to order that from Germany. It's going to be, to overnight, it's going to be an extra $2,000, and the whole thing's going to cost with labor and stuff. It's going to be like a $5,000 thing. Oh, no. If you go in there and say, hey, I'm trying to turn the engine over, not the starter, it's just not getting a spark for whatever reason. I don't know. I checked the plugs. I can't figure it out. Oh, well, I can't BS this guy too much, Keeping people ignorant makes them easier to manipulate. Why is school not making a whole lot of classes about like civics and government, teaching you specific skills like Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that? They're trying to give you a lot of nonsense. The education system, they're trying to give you a lot of nonsense. They're trying to keep you ignorant, and they're trying to, entertain you to death. I think the deep state is just human beings that from one way or another got to a position of power, and they're doing what human beings do. Whether you're running a small mom and pop, Italian restaurant, or you're running the country, or you're running the intelligence agencies. I think they're doing a lot of good work, and they're doing a lot of bad work, and they're doing some things that they like, some things that they don't. If you're running an Italian restaurant, the margins are really tight, and you go, this cheese expired yesterday. Smells okay. I think we can get away with it. I think you can get away with it. And I think they do. It's like, what are you going to do? Just like close down the restaurant? What about the waitress? She's a single mom. She has 2 kids at home. I can't do that. And I think you just scale that up. And I think that's what a lot of the deep state is. Thank you guys for listening. Curious of your thoughts on what you think about these like solo podcasts and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. I'm going to do it some more, maybe some Q&As and things like that. But I appreciate you. And thank you for listening. Hey there, Cylinder Radio listeners. If you like the approach that I take on the podcast and social media and want to try and implement some of the strategies that I use to have productive conversations on challenging topics, check out my free downloadable guide, Debate to Dialogue. It's available on my website, williamroosh.com/debate to dialogue.